So today's lesson title? Question mark? Questioning ourselves. Had to begin with a question. As many of you know, I usually do. So I want you to take a moment and reflect for yourself for a minute. Why did you come here today? Inspiration, connection, community. To feel the love. To make and eat some food. Ice cream, because we're going to have an ice cream social. Why else? To be of service. To hear the lesson. To know. And you don't mean just to know. To know. Yes, to remember who you are. Beautiful. Support. You got a community. Yeah. All right. Namaste. So, I want you to take that question deeper now. In other words, you might have said, I came here because of the community and the support. Go deeper. Why? And just be silent for a minute. Think about whatever your reason was for coming. Take it deeper. And again, using the example of, I came here to be with friends. Why? Now I want you to share with somebody next to you what your reason why was. Okay? All right. Share with me what different answers you might have got now that you took it a little bit deeper. Yes. It hit something, a chord in you. To feed your soul. Because you love everybody, which again, I'll take that question even deeper. And to love everybody does what for you? Yes, happiness, joy, the opportunity to share that, feel that. Because you feel loved when you come. It's real, grounded, a reminder of who you are. Beautiful. Love it. Connection of the soul. Heart opening. A place for safety to express your feelings, variety. Authentic. Transform the thoughts in your head. Perfect hook. Did I pay you? So you noticed that I asked a question and we answer, and it's beautiful. But by questioning ourselves, we were able to take it deeper. And what did that do? Yes, you go deeper. It opened up the heart. You learned a little more about yourself and the motivation, and it touched something in you. And of course, for those of us who hear our founder, Ernest Holmes, the Science of Mind and the Science of Mind principles, we know that we're here to change our thinking and to see what kind of, to learn how to first become aware of our thoughts, and then based on becoming aware, maybe questioning those thoughts. And why would we do that? To find out again what's really motivating me. What is real here? Where is the richness of life? And how can I use the deepening to perhaps transform and awaken? Susan, did you have? Beautiful. So a healing process, again, that safety speaks to you in your heart, a place where you can be and get support and feel like you're healing yourself. Yes. Mm-hmm. So you noticed how the questioning yourself took you into a deeper layer of the onion, as we might say? Yes? Why does it matter? Yes, because you all of a sudden recognize you don't have to believe every thought that comes, and you find out where you've been limiting yourself, opening yourself up to new possibilities, and in science of mind and or spiritual principles, into unlimited possibility. And so Debbie Ford, this is the book of the month, The Right Questions, and I know there's one or two of these books left, does a fabulous job in one form. I'm going to talk about several books, but in her book, she has The Right Questions, 10 essential questions to guide you to an extraordinary life. To guide you to an extraordinary life. And she does a beautiful job in a lot of ways, basically allowing us to empower ourselves to fulfill our life's dreams and passions. And when you're living your passion, life is rich. And when you're living richly, as you know more about who you are and your purpose, you're on fire. We all have an inner flame, and depending on where we're at, we can spark each other's flame, or that flame can be dimmed based on our own thoughts or based on the support mechanisms that may or may not be around you. Byron Katie, many of you recognize that. We speak of Byron Katie frequently. She's got a book, and I don't have it with me because I read it digitally, and it's called A Mind at Home with Itself, asking 4 questions to free your mind, to open your heart, and to turn your world around. Now, they're not the same 10 questions that Debbie Ford asked, but the theme here is questioning ourselves. And not in a way that's insecure, but questioning ourselves in order to get to that deeper meaning about why we're making the decisions we are, or if we're making decisions that we are. In other words, are you sleeping? Are you unconscious? Or are you living on purpose? For how many of you recognize the phrase, know thyself? Yes, we've probably all heard that phrase. And you know, that's an ancient Greek phrase. I wonder why that's carried on for so many generations. Think there might be some truth in that? And know thyself, to discover the true gifts that you bring to the world. Because you're here to discover the divinity in you. And that's a gift to the rest of the world. Now, Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Socrates says, the unexamined life is not worth living. And that can sound a little bit of a negative tone. I think that really what we're after here is we aren't living our life unconsciously when we choose to question ourselves and find our motivations and understand ourselves. Again, questioning, I may have had thoughts, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about Byron Katie's thoughts about that. But life is truly a blessing if we aren't blind to it. It's a big if, because it's really easy for us to live our life 90% of the day doing habits. And you may have made a choice because you're passionate about something. You may have made a choice because at a particular point in time that was the best choice. But then when you get into a habit, you never ask yourself again in this point in time if that's still what's motivating and driving you. And when we start to live our life in our unconscious habits, life may not be as fulfilling. Thomas Jefferson says, "Great accomplishments have been made by those who question themselves. Challenging your beliefs can lead to discovery. Question everything, even your God." Why would we question our God? Because frankly, no matter what your spiritual beliefs are, religion or no religion, you have beliefs. And we're talking about questioning the thoughts and the beliefs to determine if at this point in time, like a river, you can never step into the same river twice. So it is with your life. Where you are here and now, the choice may be different than what you did 10 years ago. But you'll never know if you don't ask the question. So, how many of you Google things these days? I heard interesting. I wonder what that's about. I would like to ask more questions, but I'll get back to that. While you can Google a ton of information today, and while we can learn so much from that information, it doesn't mean that we know it, right? In other words, somebody can read and Google about how to ride a bicycle. How well do you think that's going to work out? I know the theory, that's right. And then there are pilots who take ground school. So how many of you want to fly an airplane of somebody who passed the ground school but have not yet flown a plane? Anybody? Unless you're a thrill seeker. Definitely an e-ticket ride. You have to be old enough to understand what I mean by that. But here's why questions are important to all of us, especially all of us who are metaphysicians. For those of us who follow the philosophy of science of mind, when we get to a roadblock in our life, could be financial roadblock, relationships, job, health, we may think we know the answer. But we aren't getting the demonstration. Which means we may have learned about how to ride a bike or how to fly a plane, but we haven't yet experienced the aligning of our truth. But we know that will happen when we demonstrate it. And not when, but I'll talk about that in a second. So, let's use our center as an example, shall we? Okay. For those of you who are a part of our e-blast, and you can sign up via the website, financially we are running in the red. We're about halfway through the year as far as, the board is always about 30 days behind based on, the month of June. We learned in July where we stood. So, and we aren't overspending. That's a good thing, is it? Yes, beautiful. But our budget projection on income, based on the year before, is not being met. Now, don't get dramatic over that, okay? I'm serious about that. It's just a fact. You look in the mirror, You don't have to emotionally engage in that. However, we do want to look in the mirror. And we want to understand why we are not yet demonstrating what we know is our truth, which is there is abundance everywhere. So, what as metaphysicians do we say to ourselves? Yes. First, the first thing we know is that we know that we must change our consciousness, right? In other words, we must change our thinking in order to change the outcome. And so, as Reverend Michael is suggesting here, we start doing what? Treatment and affirmations, right? And questioning. If you're daring. Questioning. So, let's make sure that we're all clear. Give me some affirmations and some things that we would include in a spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of affirmative prayer. You said there is more than enough. What else? It's all God. It is readily available. It is yours now. We are abundant. God is your source, our source. We always have enough. Yes, including money. In other words, we're getting more specific to our goal, are we not? And while we don't want to outline how, we do want to become specific. Otherwise, we, put into mind something that's vague, and you get back vague. I hope my microphone got that. Beautiful. So a couple things about what you said there, Dr. Carolyn. The first is that there is, in our subconscious or subjective mind, limitations. Do we think we all know what those limitations are? Some. Do you think in order to get a demonstration, we have more to reveal? And how are we going to reveal that? Questioning. Which means talking, expressing, engaging. And I know, and I'm not saying this is wrong, I just want awareness that people say, well, when you talk about those things, now you're focused on the negative. No, I'm not. I need to be able to look in the mirror. No, I won't. Now, I don't have to understand all the reasons and causes. But what I'm saying to you is we are going to do a treatment. We'll get to that. But it's important for us to question in order to find where in our subjective mind are we limiting ourselves. And then this really moves into creativity. Because if you're not creative, here we are stuck in an alley. And if you're not going to open up and allow for, well, we know there's unlimited possibilities, so how are we going to get creative? How are we going to get outside the box? And we had a retreat with practitioners and board of trustees where we called it Outside the Box. And guess what? We're still having discussions about how to get outside the box. Because I know that consciousness needs to change. I know that. But I am curious. And I want to know more deeply where those limitations are. So that in that blindness that I'm living in, the blindness that we as a community are living in, the other thing, as you spoke, Dr. Carolyn, is we are all one. So it's the consciousness of all of us. We must all be lifted up together. Not just one, not just a group. The community lifted up in understanding the truth of our beingness in order for that to be demonstrated. So we are actively seeking the truth. And yes, the demonstration is already here. We're just blind to it. Again, it could be around the corner, but if we're not asking questions and we're not seeking it out, and that means we have to be open, and sometimes that could trigger people, meaning I am sure I'm triggering people because I'm talking about money. That's right. And money is a surefire way to trigger people. But that also means that's where a healing is needed. Very good. You need to have a plan of action. And so in order for us to set our direction, we'd like to be able to turn on this is where we're at. And yes, we're going to change consciousness, but what do we say? Treat and? That's right. I can treat. I'll just wait for it to come to me. Come on. I've changed my mind. Who moved my cheese? Yes. If you were here for that lesson. The reflection, the contemplation, the opportunity to, one of the things about even when you talked about a plan of action is like, I need to move myself around. I need to go see things differently. I need to question. I need to see different things. I need to throw out ideas. I need to get the creative juices flowing because all of that is moving my feet to say, where is that truth? Where is that truth that I haven't yet seen? And let me say that sometimes as metaphysicians, ego comes first. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I just need to do treatment. Yeah, it's true, we do. But there are many times that it's like, I already know, and yet it's, then why aren't we demonstrating? I think for this society, and certainly at this point in time, we let ego get in the way. We already know the answer, which means we've already not opened the door to ask the questions. We haven't allowed ourselves to be humble enough to say, there must be things I don't know. And I'm willing to be open and to look and to learn and to connect and figure this out together. That's why we're here together. That support, that healing of knowing our truth. We must currently and freely give up our current opinion and position. Think we could all learn that? So if we're not comfortable questioning ourselves, we're not looking for the pivot. So we had an introduction to Landmark here. There was about, I'd say 20 of us who stayed. And I love this visual that they created. We know what we know, and we know a little bit about what we don't know. Like if there was a neuroscientist here, I'd say, well, of course I don't know what the neuroscientist knows, right? So we have a sense of where our knowledge, how far our knowledge and experience go. But the largest part of the pie section, we don't know what we don't know. And I know there are folks here who've been through the Landmark education, a very, as they use the words, transforming experience. And they use, they don't put it this way, but the science of mind principles are there. They just don't use spirit. At least that's my interpretation off this introduction. I know I'm speaking a little naively because I haven't done the actual training. But what I'm after here is they also believe we create our stories. So I have a rock here and a rock here. The rocks represent facts. And what we do is create the story to bridge those facts. And then we attach to those stories, like why we're emotionally attached to the discussion about money. We have a story attached to just a factual, here's where we stand. Maybe that brings up, a worthiness issue or, what is it about that that needs to be healed? And again, to use a practical example so that people can see this, the gentleman who did the Landmark introduction said that his parents had divorced when he was young. The way the custody ended, he ended up with his father and his sister ended up with his mother. He ended up in a serious medical situation. His father was unavailable. He called his mom. His mom came and helped him, and then he realized how much he was missing her connection and really enjoyed that. But when it was all over, he went back to his dad's, who wasn't very kind to him. And for the next 15 to 20 years, he felt that she didn't love him. Tell me how you would live if you felt like your mother didn't love you. And some of you may know that viscerally, and some of you can just imagine that. Okay, the fact is those things happened. He interpreted what that meant. So he, through the landmark training, actually got connected with his mother, and she basically said, I had called to see if I could keep you, but the court ordered me to return you back to your father. And if I didn't do that, I'd go to jail, and then your sister wouldn't even have me. So he was very grateful that he was able to reconnect based on a different story with his mother. That's happening to all of us based on our stories, right? So why wouldn't we ask questions? Maybe because we're in fear, denial, avoidance. Maybe because we've just standardly made decisions for so long that subjectively we don't even realize that we believe that our mother doesn't love us. If you don't ask the question, then you can't find your way to the truth. So, asking questions, we get to discover our motivations, our false stories, our beliefs, and we find the inner wisdom that is within each one of you. And when you find your inner wisdom, your true motivation, then you can know your passion, live your passion and your purpose, and that leads to a more fulfilling life. The right questions give you the power to make higher choices that align with your truth and the gifts that you bring to the world. The right questions wake you up to the consequences of your previous choices and motivates you to take the higher road for the right choice here and now for you. The right questions cause you to see that fear and that denial and to choose more from the unlimited possibilities that are still available to you and always available to you. And Byron Katie says, you know, the mind is like an unruly child. Thoughts come and go, but do we discern whether to believe those thoughts or do we just let them replay? Thinking a thought and then questioning whether you really believe that thought means you have to be open and willing to listen to yourself, to ask the deeper questions, which means contemplation, spiritual practice, which is why we are here, to encourage one another to do our spiritual practice so that we may live our passion. Self-inquiry gives you access to the wisdom that already exists within you, to recognize your own truth, and as he said, to remember who you truly are. So we can treat for you, but you have the choice to question yourself and then to move your feet. So I am going to do a treatment here and now. For those of you who may not know Science of Mind, you get an opportunity to hear our form of prayer, and I will end with that. So if you will join me together as the Center for Spiritual Living, Chico, we come into the recognition that we are indeed of the one source. That source lives in, as, and through us. And what we know as the truth here is known as the truth everywhere, because there is nowhere that God is not. What is known at one point is known in all places. And so I'm declaring the truth that already exists, knowing that it is already there. We open our hearts, our minds, to allow ourselves to question, what more do I need to know? We know that abundance is demonstrated through this world, in nature, that if we really believe that we are one, oh my gosh, look at the blessings. The blessings of this community, the building the beautiful building that we continue to maintain and the no mortgage, the opportunity to be together in this open, safe, loving, healing environment, the pleasure, the opportunity, the connection, the love, the joy, and the happiness that exists right here and now with the people who we connect with here. Knowing that as we continue to open our heart and open our mind, we continue to express our passion, our purpose, making a difference for one another and Chico and California and all of those, because once again, what is known as one spot is known in all places. I'm knowing this truth. I'm knowing that we are in the mind of the exchange of giving and flow of energy that is happening in life multiple times in our body by our breathing, by our heart and blood circulating, by our digestion. We understand that there is flow, and we are one with that flow. We understand the tithing that is really the faith in knowing that we are not only blessed and give of ourselves and of our blessings, but knowing that we will continue to be blessed. It is in this faith that we give of ourselves, either in service and or in tithing. We know that indeed that we have faith in knowing our truth, that together we are connected in brainstorming and allowing the creativity to move us outside the box, to open ourselves to the new form of expression, whatever that may be for this point in time, for our community and the community that is here to be soon. I am knowing that we live in this appreciation of this abundance. I know that we are blessed, and that of this blessing, of this space of this knowing in my heart, knowing in my mind, and knowing in my soul, that we are blessed by all that is here and now, and we open our eyes and we allow ourselves to express our truth of the abundance that we are. And so I'm releasing this in mind, knowing that it is really indeed already done. And by speaking the power of this word into the law, it is demonstrated as we move ourselves to the place of this perfect knowing. And so I release this joyfully, I let it be so, and together we say, and so it is. Namaste.